everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And it's time once again for License to Review. And today, Eric is going to talk about The Spy Who Loved Me. Yep.
It's like an Austin Powers title, but it's Love instead of Shag.
Instead of Shag, right.
Yeah.
Because Shag means something else, kind of.
More in England.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Eric, I watched this with you, but it's been weeks and weeks ago. And I honestly am blanking completely and don't immediately remember what happens in this one.
Sure.
I know it's the follow-up to the one we watched before.
Man with the Golden Gun.
And that I like that actor more now because I've watched it more.
That's true. So, surely you remember the beginning, which has one of the best stunts you've ever seen in your entire life.
Well, remind me, Eric.
Well, do you remember when he's skiing and he goes off the giant cliff? And it's all one take, and he's falling, and then the big Union Jack parachute comes up. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's pretty great.
You don't remember that.
No, I do.
Okay. Because you, like, while we watch it, you're like, that's one of the coolest
things. No, I do remember that.
Okay.
No, it was amazing.
Yeah, okay.
Do you not agree?
No, I do agree.
It's really cool.
But I didn't think you actually remembered. I thought you were just like, yeah, I remember that, of course.
You know the best thing about that stunt? There's no slide whistle.
Yes, it's true. It's true. So...
I couldn't believe when you told me that the slide whistle is in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Did you tell me that?
No, I think it was commented.
Somebody told me about that.
I think that was...
Maybe it was commented, yeah.
That
the slide, like, if you go back and listen to the soundtrack, the slide whistle is in the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense because John Barry says it's, like, his biggest regret of, like, his entire career.
Of course, yeah.
So that makes sense. So, this movie is kind of, You Only Live Twice again. And Moonraker is also this movie and You Only Live Twice again with the kind of basic plot, which is... In You Only Live Twice, there's a spaceship, we have a spaceship or a satellite or something, no, it's a spaceship, and a bigger spaceship takes it. And it's a whole crisis over, like what's going on with the spaceship. In this movie, we have a submarine, and there's a bigger submarine that, like, eats it, and the Americans think the Russians did it, the Russians think the Americans did it, and it's like a whole thing. Because they're a stealth sub. It's the same plot. And next movie will be the same thing, but in space again. So...
And they're basing these on source material that was not the same plot every time.
No. Moonraker is one of my favorite books, and they just ruined it. But this... Okay, so the reason this movie is what it is... So Spy Who Loved Me is the only James Bond book I've never actually read, because everyone hates it, and Ian Fleming, like, disowned it. So much so... that in every contract he ever signed, it said you could not adapt this beyond the title.
Oh, you told me this.
Yeah. So, like, the comic strip adaptation of James Bond has a story that's just the title. I think they actually use a little bit more of the story than this movie does. Like, the only thing this movie takes from that story, from my understanding, is that there is a guy with metal teeth that kills people. But he's not even named Jaws. Like, his name is, he's like Muggsy or something. So, like, legally, they weren't allowed to adapt the book for this, so they had to come up with something wholesale. What they do is, so they have James Bond, 007, and Agent XXX.
Oh, yes! Now I'm remembering this.
Who's kind of his equal number, but in the Russian, in the Russian Secret Service.
Yeah, and she seems like an actual competent agent, as opposed to that agent from last movie.
Up
until
the third act.
And I can't remember, are like both of the girls ultimately kind of bad in this?
No. So, okay. So,
this is not sticking with me at all.
Okay. So, do you remember the bad guy who has the big Legion of Doom thing?
Legion of Doom thing.
Yeah,
I remember.
Like he has that big water, like he has that big like station out in the water, and it looks like the Legion of Doom had.
Oh yeah.
And he drops the one lady into the sharks. You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Stromberg. He was supposed to be Blofeld. This was supposed to be a Spectre plot. The rights issues. They weren't able to do it, so they just made a new villain. It was Stromberg.
And he's got Jaws.
And he's got Jaws, who I don't like.
Yeah.
But I discovered while watching this. Because my issue with Jaws, people love Jaws. I don't. I really don't like Jaws. My issue with Jaws is that he exists in a cartoon.
Yeah.
And not in any semblance of reality.
He is supernatural.
He is too supernatural, even for the Roger Moore era of James Bond. But what I discovered while watching this...
Like, Evil Shield from Glass is looking for him.
But while watching this time, I realized that all of that is in one single scene. Because we dropped like a pyramid on him, we have like a construction site. We dropped the construction site on him, and he still gets up, and then he's like tearing the side off of like I don't mind he's strong. It's too far. Yeah. Like he's tearing the side off of like a car and stuff. Like he's just he's like too much.
He's like Lou Ferrigno Hulk or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that's what we're watching. It's like, oh, he's like the Hulk. It's too far for any James Bond universe for me. People love him. He's like him and Oddjob. Like those are the two henchmen everyone loves. He has a pop. So far we've only done one James Bond pop line. He's in that line like that. He's really popular.
Wait, is he judged because the bad guy has sharks and it's a like water story?
My understanding is so. Steven Spielberg wanted to make a James Bond movie, and they never let anybody that's like too big make a James Bond movie. Yeah. This was the movie he would have done, but did Jaws instead. And I think it's a reference to that. Oh, interesting. But after Jaws is the biggest thing on the planet, there was no chance he was ever going to make a James Bond movie. Which is why he ends up making Indiana Jones. Is because he wants to make a James Bond movie. So, I don't like Jaws. I think Jaws, it just goes too far. But watching it this time, I realized it's literally this one scene. Yeah. If you cut this scene, or cut it earlier... I don't have an issue with Jaws at all. Yeah. I don't have a problem with him, biting through things. You don't mind biting through, power lines and things like that. I don't have a problem. And he's like a vampire, he bites people's throats out. I don't have a problem with any of that. It's just that one scene where we drop a building on him and then he's, tearing a car apart. Like, it's just too far. And the actor's name is Richard Kiel, and, he's
Is this the one with that amazing set inside the big submarine?
Yes. Yes, that's this one.
Super cool.
Yeah. It also, he goes to Egypt, and he has that line that you loved so much. When sticking with me at all. When the guy tells him, when the guy tries to go into the mistake in Egypt, and he's like, "Look at this sexy lady," and James Bond says, "When one is in Egypt, one should delve into its deepest treasures."
Forgot about that. Yeah.
So the villain, the hench chick in this, I'm trying to remember what her actual name is. It's Carolyn Monroe, who's one of the most gorgeous women who's ever existed ever. She's also in Captain Kronos and a couple other Hammer horror films. I think she's in Dracula 1972 AD. She's just like a really attractive lady that was in a bunch of movies for the 70s. Never big acting parts where she had to do much, but she's just there because she's gorgeous. And there's a problem with her in this. So she's. Do
I remember this right? She's not dubbed, right? Or is she?
I think she is dubbed.
Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah, because I got a comment on that. I'm like, I've heard her talk. Why do we have to dub this? She can act. I've seen her in other things. She talks in Captain Kronos. She's fine. She's not, the most amazing actress, but, she's fine. So, there are two problems with Carolyn Monroe in this movie. One of them is, it's like a blink and you miss it death, and it's not in the climax. It's in the middle of a car chase, at the end of the second act. It's weird. We introduce her late in the movie, and we kill her early. It's very strange that she's supposed to be, the sexy femme fatale. But also, the Agent XXX is almost Bond's equal, and we go pretty far with that for the first two acts of the film, where she is as good as Bond, and he saves her and she saves him, and we go really good with that.
It feels like a sidekick kind of thing.
Yeah, and she's an attractive lady. Next to Carolyn Monroe, she's not. I'm just sorry, she's just not. But what's weird is, it feels that's just that happens in movies sometimes, you just ignore it, right? This woman is clearly way more attractive than this woman, which is weird, because this woman is one of the most beautiful women on the planet, but this woman makes her look like the girl next door. And and that's what happens the second she's next to Carolyn Monroe. The problem is the movie is too self-aware of it, because immediately she gets real, jealous girlfriendy. James Bond looks at Kelly Monroe for like 6 seconds, and the next like 5 minutes of the movie is her acting like a jealous girlfriend of James Bond. It's really weird. It's like everyone on the set was like, yeah, she's more attractive than you. That would upset you. It's really weird for this to be in the movie, which then kind of begins this downward spiral for this character. XXX is one of the better, at least in this era, I guess, Bond girls of like being an equal to James Bond. The best one is on Imagine Secret Service, but they're not going out of their way to try and make her a strong female character. She just is that way.
Just the way she's playing it.
Yeah. Just that Diana Rigg is just powerful, and they're not like trying to make her an equal action woman. She's just a strong character. As Tracy. In this, I think it's the first time they really go out of their way to do the. This isn't like all of the other Bond girls. Which is the line that every Bond girl has. Every Bond girl, to this day, every Bond girl comes out and says, "I'm not like all of the other Bond girls. I'm a match for James Bond. I get under his skin." I
think Halle Berry said it.
Halle Berry absolutely said it. So did Denise Richards. So did the woman from Spectre. They all say it. It's like they're reading from cue cards. So,
and the few times it's true, you're like, well, yeah, but they all said you would have said it anyway.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know if Eva Green did, but Vesper in Casino Royale is. Again, she's not an action girl. She's just a fleshed out character.
Yeah.
The problem with XXX is it is true for XXX, and I think this is the first time we really have someone that's James Bond's equal as a female. In all of the James Bond-y things. She's just as good an agent. Until you get to the third act, where she's tied to a chair for the entire third act.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get herself out, she just is tied to a chair.
Yeah, I kept waiting for her to do something.
Yeah, I kept waiting to cut back to her we just lose her for 15 minutes of the clip. And we find out, so...
You should have the Black Widow thing at the beginning of Avengers or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what they should have. It was weird where I was like, this movie's trying to be progressive for its time period, but it's still the mid-70s.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because I feel like there are plenty of other movies I've seen around this time period that aren't doing that. Certainly superhero comics aren't
you're
doing
not
that
just
at that
comparing it to now and not having its role.
No, I'm looking at other movies.
Yeah.
At the same time. It's just... I don't know. I feel like if you look at superhero comics at the time, when you go to Stan Lee...
This isn't too far away from the Wonder Woman TV show.
No. Wait, when you go to Stan Lee Avengers, the Wasp is treated not great. By the time we're in 75, we're like X-Men is starting. Claremont's X-Men is the ending of this movie feels real dated, gender politics wise. But what makes it worse, because I don't mind that. Last movie, I mean, it was a little annoying last movie, but I don't mind that in a James Bond movie. What bothers me is that the first two acts aren't that way. They did create a character that is James Bond's equal, physically and mentally, and then she just
they threw it away in
that. Yeah, they just throw it away in the third act. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's really weird. And so the big thing with her
if they kept her like that, they wouldn't have done this. But if they kept her like that, they could have spun her off or something.
Yeah, which we threaten to do with almost every Bond girl. That's
really? I didn't know that.
Michelle Yeoh almost had her own movie series, and it would have been great. We also almost did with Halle Berry.
But yeah, really, Michelle Yeoh was really super popular right then. That doesn't surprise me at all. It was, for whatever reason, it was a big deal that she was a Bond girl.
And she's great. Do you know who the other Bond girl is in that movie?
I don't. You've told me this.
Terry Hatcher.
Oh yes, that's right. You know what? We've had this conversation so many times.
Because her then husband wasn't satisfied with sleeping with Lois Lane. She had to be a Bond girl so that when they got older, he could be like, no, she was really hot. Everyone thought she was really hot, and then they got divorced 2 years later.
Of course they did.
It was a real weird ego.
Which one is that? Is that Golden? That's not.
That's Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
Which is one that follows Goldeneye. So the other with XXX is that she's in the opening, Bond kills this guy that's trying to kill him, and we find out that that's her lover. That's XXX's lover, and that she finds out during the course of the movie that the man who killed the person who killed the man she loved is James Bond. And the scene at the end of the movie is actually pretty good with that. Where when she finds out, she's like, okay, we're through, and I'm gonna kill you the second this mission is over. and she goes to do it, and you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they've been through all this stuff together, and like they've grown to care about each other. Like, it doesn't make sense that she would still kill him, and she doesn't kill him. And that's all nice. I just wish it was payoff from like a better, like, the third act isn't bad. I remember the third act being really boring. I remember, because I hate James Bond movies where they end and like, it's one of those things that like balances between realism and like what it should be versus what it would really be. I get that realistically, James Bond would probably call in the military, and like most of his adventures would end with a group of people. I don't want a group of people running around. I want one guy with a gun running around. I remember this movie being kind of boring when you get to the third act. I just remember like people running around with like machine guns shooting people. It's not. It's a really good third act. Except
lot better than the last one.
Yeah, except for the triple X stuff. And
we don't have a contrived incompetence to make things explode.
Triple X should be the one that kills Stromberg, but the Stromberg kill is really good. It's one of the, I think it's one of the most satisfying villain deaths. I always remember this movie as not being like, because this is the second Goldfinger. Like, this is Roger Moore's Goldfinger, but it's also like it and Goldfinger are like held up as like these are the best Bond movies.
Yeah.
I've always remembered strongly disagreeing with that. I didn't have that this time. This is one of the best viewings I've had of this movie where I was like, I get what people like about this. Like, I've got my issues with it, Jaws and what we do with Triple X in the third act, but like, if I can take myself out of literary James Bond and like what I think the James Bond movie should be as an adaptation of that stuff, and just kind of look at what
they rarely ever get close to that.
Yeah, and just look at like what James Bond is as a movie franchise. This is a pretty good one. This is I'll be interested to see
top 10. There's not that many.
Well, not yet. This is 11.
Okay, but even with only, I mean, how many are there total? 30 something.
Next one is 25. So we were 24 movies in.
Okay, but like even with only 24 movies, you wouldn't put it in the top 10.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like my knee jerk reaction is to not, but it probably does end up in the top 10. It's lower on the top 10 than probably on most people's list, but no, I guess you're right. It probably is in the top 10.
Because like there's only 24.
Yeah.
But then that would be an interesting list to see you put together after this.
Yeah.
Like because I wonder how much of Daniel Craig's movies wind up in the top 10. Two or three of them.
Well, because Skyfall's in my top 3, if not top, or it's at least my top 5, if not my top 3.
Well, sure, I just don't know where the second one would fall. I don't know how, because I know you like that movie better than I do.
Quantum Solace?
Yeah.
It's not in my top 10.
It's not top 10, okay.
Probably. And Casino Royale I have a mixed relationship with, but
Okay,
that probably
sure.
ends up in the top 10. I don't know. But like, I'll do that list at the end of all this.
Sure.
But no,
you don't have to. I thought of that, and I was like, I actually would like to know what those are.
I remember, because I don't go back to Roger Moore very often. I remember For Your Eyes Only being the one that I really liked out of all the Roger Moores, because that's the most grounded and dark that these movies get.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to know when I get to the end of Roger Moore if I still feel that way, because like I almost feel like in this viewing, and also with my viewing of Man with the Golden Gun, maybe I'm taking these more on their own terms than I'm trying not to bring as much baggage. I'm like, there's a thing that James Bond's supposed to be, and there's an entire decade where it isn't that. I'm trying to.
You've either been liking them a lot more, or you're just being a lot lighter on them, because.
Yeah, I think I'm just accepting them as like, because like the Pierce Brosnan movies, you have to do this too, where it's like.
Yeah.
It's not at all what I want from this as a franchise, as an adaptation of the books, but like. This one in particular is really important to like what people think of as what a James Bond movie is. So like I can't just discount that.
Yeah.
Just because I come in as a fan of the novels first. Like it's a real fun adventure action James Bond movie.
Well, again, your standards have to be different when none of them are exactly that.
Skyfall gets real close.
But I mean of the older ones.
Yeah.
Like until you get to Craig, they never get. They're never like the novels.
Dalton's pretty good. And a couple of the...
and that Lazenby movie in places
yes,
he gets close,
yes.
right?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
And that's so far still my favorite.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the closest we've gotten thus far.
It just felt like a real story to me.
And
And I love how that movie ends.
And the first 3 Sean Connerys are kind of the plots of the books with
all the character stuff
the
taken
deeper,
out?
yeah, the deeper stuff kind of taken out.
Yeah.
But also, this is the movie that I think solidifies. I'm interested to see how long this lasts. What I think of as like kind of TV tropes, or like there's things that we do in TV shows, especially in the 70s when we're very repetitive. Where like every episode, like you tune in to see like the different version of this, and we kind of solidify that here with. I think this is really where we establish you go to Q's lab and you see them test different gadgets, which is severely missing from the Daniel Craig movies. I love those scenes. I love them as a kid. I love them now. I love seeing all the different like weird things Q's making. And none of them are the things that we're going to give James Bond. Usually, it's like a cast that's a rocket launcher and things like that. Like, I love that stuff. I really love the Q scenes. But
we get more gadgets in Skyfall, but it's more throwback than anything.
Yeah. And so, that will stick. I think I'm not sure which is the first movie that we really have that win. It might be Not the Golden Gun. That might be the first one we like legitimately have like you go see Q and he does and you walk through the lab, but it might be this one. I'm not sure. The thing that we won't keep forever, like the Q scenes, but is in Man with the Golden Gun, is in this. I'm interested to see if it keeps. Is M's office in a weird location? Whereas, like in Man with the Golden Gun, it was in, you remember that, it was like that tilted submarine, they had to build like that sideways office.
Yes.
And then this one, it's somewhere else. And that feels really TV show to me. Like, that feels really 70s TV shows. Like, where's M's office going to be this episode?
Feels like Mission Impossible or something.
Yeah. I don't know if I hate that. I guess I kind of miss when we used to make movies like that. When we used to make movies like episodic television. But I don't love it either.
And where we build crazy sets for no good reason.
Yeah, I love crazy sets for no good reason.
That's right.
But yeah, so I had a good viewing of this. It's quite good. I kind of see what people are talking about.
So what's the next one?
Next one is Moonraker, which you want to watch.
I'm gonna watch Moonraker.
I wouldn't make you watch it, but you want to.
I have. It's just notorious, and I've heard about it since I was a kid, and I've always been curious about it. I know it's supposed to be bad, but I'm gonna watch it.
I mean, the great secret of Moonraker is that it's not that bad until the third act. Like, it's kind of this movie again, and then we go into space and we start shooting laser guns.
Yeah, because I always hear about it, like, premise-wise, it's silly.
I also think that the opening of that movie is maybe my favorite, like, opening stunt. I think it might be the most impressive stunt for me. We'll see as I keep going. But like, I always remember the stunt of Moonraker. It was like, yeah, that movie sucks, but that opening is amazing. So, yeah.
There's a lot of good stunts all the way through, really. I mean,
that used to be part of the appeal of James Bond. He used to do crazy stunts. I mean, even in Goldeneye, they set a record in that jump he does at the beginning off that. Like, that's the record for like the longest bungee jump anyone's ever done.
Wow.
Or at least it was when they made the movie. I don't
time,
think it still is. Like, they used to do stuff like that.
But like, you got Skyhook and Thunderball. And...
Yeah. Well, and the ski thing in this also might have set a record. Yeah. If it didn't, it is the first time anyone ever did that. There's a whole story about how one of the producers saw like this image from a magazine and was like, I want to get that guy that did that, and he finds, and then when he talks to the guy, he finds out that it's the picture in the magazine is faked. He's like, but I think we could do it.
We're gonna try it.
Yeah. So they try it. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised Evil Knievel was never in a James Bond movie.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. And we're going to move on now to the last segments of the Geekvolution Omnibus. We've got news and letters pages, so look forward to that. It is super crazy late, so we're going to do some quicker, condensed versions of those. But stick around, because we've got some interesting things to talk about. Anyway, we'll see you again shortly if you stick around for that. And otherwise, Bond fans, thanks a lot for watching this. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And we will see you again very shortly.